Moonlight quietly spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Bennett Mansion. The luxurious master bedroom rested in complete silence. Soft silver light stretched across the polished wooden floor before climbing gently onto the king-size bed. Emma lay on one side. Sophia lay on the other. Only a few feet separated them, yet somehow the distance between them had never felt so complicated. Neither woman was asleep. Emma stared at the ceiling, pulling the blanket a little higher over herself. Every time she closed her eyes, she found herself replaying the same moment. I didn't like it. Why was he sitting so close to you? A tiny smile slowly formed across her lips. She quickly hid beneath the blanket. What is wrong with me? She whispered to herself. I never thought I'd ever enjoy seeing someone jealous over me. A quiet laugh escaped before she could stop it, especially Sophia. She squeezed her eyes shut. When did she become the last person I think about before falling asleep? Emma immediately covered her own face. No, don't think like that. She's still your boss. Across the bed, Sophia slowly opened her eyes. She hadn't been asleep either. She quietly turned her head, just enough to glance toward Emma, only for a second. Emma's back was facing her. She looked peaceful. Sophia quickly looked back at the ceiling, almost embarrassed by herself. She let out a slow breath. Get a grip, Sophia. She's your wife. A long silence followed. Only on paper? Those 3 words should have settled her thoughts. Instead, they only made them louder. Then why? Does that answer bother me? Outside, the wind gently moved the curtains. Inside the bedroom, neither woman noticed that they had fallen asleep, wearing almost identical smiles. Golden sunlight slowly replaced the moonlight. Birds began singing somewhere beyond the mansion gardens. Emma stirred first. She blinked several times before slowly opening her eyes. For a few peaceful moments, she simply watched the sunlight dance across the ceiling. Then, almost without thinking, she turned toward the other side of the bed. Sophia was still asleep, without the perfectly composed expression she carried every day. She looked different, younger, softer, peaceful. Emma couldn't help smiling. She'd never really looked at Sophia like this before. Very quietly, barely above a whisper, she smiled to herself. Good morning, Miss Bennett. Without opening her eyes, Sophia answered. I heard that. Emma jumped. Her eyes widened. What? Sophia slowly opened one eye. A tiny smile rested on her face. I was asleep. Emma blinked. Then, how did you hear me? Sophia stretched lazily beneath the blanket. You talk louder than you think. Emma immediately grabbed the nearest pillow and buried her face in it. Oh no. Sophia let out the smallest chuckle. The sound surprised both of them. Emma slowly lowered the pillow. Did you just laugh? Sophia looked genuinely confused. Did I? Emma couldn't stop smiling. I think you did. Sophia simply shook her head. I don't recall. Emma laughed. You really are impossible. Sophia quietly smiled again, and somehow, the room felt warmer than before. A short while later, the aroma of fresh coffee drifted through Bennett Mansion. Emma and Sophia entered the dining room together. Neither of them had spoken much after leaving the bedroom. But the silence no longer felt awkward. It felt comfortable. Grandfather Bennett quietly folded his newspaper. He watched them approach, then watched them sit. Emma reached for her tea. Sophia reached for her coffee. Both accidentally looked at each other. Both immediately looked away. Grandfather smiled behind his newspaper. Interesting. Very interesting. He slowly lowered the paper. Sophia. She looked up. Yes, Grandfather. I've only seen you make that face once before. Sophia frowned. What face? Grandfather took another sip of coffee. The jealous one. Emma nearly inhaled her tea. She coughed so hard she had to grab a napkin. Sophia remained perfectly calm. I'm not jealous. Grandfather nodded thoughtfully. Of course. I must be imagining things. Emma tried so hard not to laugh that her shoulders began shaking. Sophia looked directly at her. Emma immediately focused very seriously on her toast. Grandfather quietly smiled into his coffee. Perhaps. This marriage was progressing much faster than either of them realized. Breakfast continued peacefully. Emma reached toward the center of the table. The sugar bowl sat just beyond her fingertips. Before she could lean forward, it gently slid toward her. Emma looked up. Sophia had already returned to reading the morning newspaper, as though she hadn't even noticed what she'd done. Emma smiled. Some habits. Had followed them home. Thank you. Sophia looked over the newspaper. For what? Emma smiled into her tea. Nothing. Sophia blinked once. All right. Grandfather lowered his coffee cup. He had seen the entire thing, and chose, for everyone's sake, not to say a single word, although the smile on his face grew just a little wider. Breakfast soon came to an end, outside. The familiar black sedan waited beneath the bright morning sky. The chauffeur stood patiently beside it. Emma adjusted the strap of her handbag. Sophia walked beside her, without thinking. She reached for the rear passenger door, opening it before Emma even had the chance. Emma stopped, then laughed softly. You really aren't going to stop doing that, are you? Sophia looked genuinely confused. Doing what? Opening every door for me. Sophia answered as though the answer were obvious. I was raised properly. Emma smiled. I don't mind. The chauffeur politely looked away, hiding the small smile on his face. He had driven Miss Bennet for years. He had never seen her open a car door for anyone, not once. The two women quietly climbed into the back seat. The door closed. The black sedan slowly rolled away from Bennet Mansion. Neither Emma nor Sophia noticed that Grandfather Bennet was watching from the front window. A satisfied smile crossed his face. He quietly folded his arms, then softly whispered to himself, You're both falling. You just don't know it yet. The drive to Bennet Corporation was quiet. Not uncomfortable, not awkward, just peaceful. Emma watched the city move past the window, while Sophia sat beside her, already reviewing something on her tablet. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Emma remembered something. She slowly turned toward Sophia. At work, Sophia looked up. Emma smiled faintly. Should I call you Sophia? Sophia's expression softened. Then she shook her head. No. Miss Bennet. Emma nodded slowly. Miss Bennet. Sophia looked back toward the window, then quietly added, Only at work. Emma smiled. I understand. A few moments later, the familiar glass towers of Bennet Corporation came into view. Emma's smile faded slightly. For several days, she had simply been Sophia's wife. Now, she was going back to being an employee. That feeling was stranger than she expected. Sophia noticed immediately. Nervous? Emma laughed softly. A little. Sophia answered gently, You'll do fine. Emma looked at her. Thanks. The car rolled to a stop. Work had officially begun. Inside the building, Employees hurried through the lobby, phones rang, elevators opened and closed. The familiar rhythm of office life surrounded them again. Emma adjusted her blazer. Sophia returned to her usual professional expression. By the time they reached the executive elevators, they looked almost exactly like CEO and employee again. Almost. The elevator doors opened. No one else stepped inside. Only Emma and Sophia. The doors closed behind them. Silence. Emma looked at the floor indicator, then at Sophia. A tiny smile appeared. "Miss Bennett?" Sophia kept her eyes forward. "Yes, Miss Carter?" Emma bit back a laugh. "Nothing." Sophia slowly turned her head. Emma's expression gave her away immediately. "You're teasing me." Emma tried to look innocent. "Maybe." Sophia rolled her eyes. Emma stared, then burst into laughter. "Did you just roll your eyes at me?" Sophia looked toward the doors again. "I don't know what you're talking about." Emma laughed even harder. The elevator finally reached their floor. The doors opened. Sophia stepped out first, but Emma noticed something. Before Sophia turned the corner, she was smiling. The morning passed quickly. Emails, meetings, presentations, reports. Everything slowly returned to normal. At least, that was what Emma kept telling herself. Just before lunch, Ryan walked toward her desk. A thick presentation folder rested in his hands. "Emma?" She looked up. "Yeah?" Ryan held up the folder. "I finished the quarterly client presentation. Could you check it before I send it?" Emma smiled. "Sure." She pushed her chair back, just as she began to stand. A calm voice echoed across the department. "Miss Carter." The entire office seemed to pause. Emma turned. Sophia stood near the entrance, tablet in one hand, perfectly composed. "Yes, Miss Bennett?" Sophia glanced briefly toward Ryan, then back at Emma. "I need the quarterly performance reports and the board presentation." "In my office." Emma blinked. "Right now?" Sophia met her eyes. Immediately. A brief silence followed. Ryan scratched the back of his neck. I guess I can wait." Sophia gave a polite nod. "Thank you." Then she turned and walked away. Emma stared after her, trying very hard not to smile. Ryan looked at her, then toward the hallway. Does she always have perfect timing? Emma picked up the reports. "Lately?" She smiled to herself. "Yes." Emma followed Sophia toward the executive floor. The hallway remained quiet. Sophia walked several steps ahead, without looking back. Emma couldn't stop thinking. Ryan had only asked for help. Nothing unusual, nothing inappropriate. Yet, Sophia had interrupted anyway. Again. Emma smiled. By the time she entered the CEO's office, she already knew exactly what she wanted to ask. She placed the reports neatly on Sophia's desk. "There," Sophia nodded. "Thank you." Emma didn't move. Sophia looked up. "Is there something else?" Emma folded her arms. "No." A pause. "I was just wondering." Sophia waited. "Were those reports really that urgent?" Sophia answered immediately. "Yes." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Sophia didn't hesitate. "Absolutely." Emma bit the inside of her cheek, trying not to laugh. She had never seen Sophia lie this badly. Sophia looked back down at the reports. "Auntie, you may go." Emma smiled. "Of course." "Miss Bennett." She turned toward the door. Sophia glanced up sharply. Emma was already leaving, still smiling. The executive doors closed behind her. Emma leaned lightly against the hallway wall. Then, she laughed, very quietly. She had never imagined that the cold, intimidating CEO of Bennett Corporation, could become so easy to read. Her mind wandered back to the honeymoon, the photographer, the brochure, the woman asking for her Instagram, Ryan, every time. Sophia answered before she could, every time. Sophia quietly found a reason to pull her away. Emma looked down. A warm smile appeared. I never thought someone could make me smile this much. A brief pause. Especially Sophia. She stopped. The smile on her face slowly changed. When did she become, my favorite part of the day? Emma's eyes widened. She immediately covered her mouth. Emma. She shook her head. You're in trouble. But even as she walked away, the smile never disappeared. Lunch arrived. Emma returned to the cafeteria. Her co-workers immediately waved her over. Ryan smiled when she approached. Finally. I thought Miss Bennett kidnapped you. Everyone laughed. Emma sat down. Sometimes I wonder. Ryan slid the ketchup toward her. So, when are those wedding treats coming? Emma smiled. Tomorrow. I promised. Ryan nodded dramatically. I'm holding you to that. The table laughed again. At that exact moment, the cafeteria doors opened. Sophia stepped inside. She had only come for coffee, nothing more. She walked toward the machine. Then, her eyes drifted toward Emma's table. Ryan was laughing. Emma was laughing too. Sophia's steps slowed, just slightly. Emma happened to look up. Their eyes met, only for a second. Sophia immediately looked away, collected her coffee, and quietly walked back toward the door. Emma watched her leave. A tiny smile appeared. She knew that look now. One of the co-workers noticed. What are you smiling about? Emma picked up her juice. Nothing. But even she didn't believe that answer anymore. The workday finally came to an end. By the time Emma and Sophia returned to Bennett Mansion, the sun had already begun disappearing beyond the horizon. Warm orange light poured through the tall windows. Dinner was waiting. Emma sat quietly at the table. Sophia sat across from her, and at the head, Grandfather Bennett watched them both. For several minutes, he said absolutely nothing. Emma quietly ate her dinner. Sophia remained perfectly composed. Everything appeared normal. Except, every now and then, Emma would look toward Sophia, remember something from the office, and smile. Sophia noticed. Of course she noticed. But every time their eyes met, Emma immediately looked back down at her plate. Grandfather watched the entire exchange. Eventually, a slow smile appeared on his face. He placed his fork down. Sophia looked up. Yes, Grandfather? Grandfather leaned back comfortably in his chair. I've only seen you make that face once before. Sophia frowned. What face? Grandfather looked toward Emma, then back at Sophia. The jealous one. Emma nearly inhaled her water. She immediately began coughing. Sophia remained completely still. I'm not jealous. Grandfather nodded. Of course. He calmly picked up his fork again. Emma covered her mouth, trying desperately not to laugh. Grandfather continued eating, then casually added, My mistake? I must be getting old. Emma's shoulders started shaking. Sophia slowly turned toward her. Emma immediately looked down, suddenly becoming extremely interested in her dinner. Sophia narrowed her eyes. Something funny, Emma? Emma shook her head. No. Another laugh nearly escaped. Nothing at all. Grandfather smiled. Sophia sighed. She knew exactly what the two of them were doing, and somehow, that only made Emma want to laugh more. Dinner ended shortly afterward. Emma gathered a few empty plates. One of the housekeepers immediately approached. "Mrs. Bennet, you don't have to do that." Emma smiled. "It's okay. I've got them." The housekeeper reluctantly allowed her to help. Together, they carried the dishes toward the kitchen. But Emma wasn't paying much attention. Her thoughts were somewhere else. The jealous one, she remembered Sophia standing at the department entrance that morning. Miss Carter. Then, immediately, Emma smiled again. The housekeeper noticed. "Mrs. Bennet?" Emma looked up. The older woman smiled kindly. "You seem very happy today." Emma blinked. "Do I?" The housekeeper nodded. "You've been smiling since you walked through the door." Emma suddenly became self-conscious. "Oh," the woman chuckled. "It suits you." Emma's expression softened. "Thank you." She placed the final plate down, then quietly walked back into the hallway. Once she was alone, Emma touched her cheeks. "Am I really smiling that much?" She shook her head, but the smile returned anyway, because she knew exactly why. And that realization was becoming harder to ignore. Later that night, Bennett Mansion became quiet. Most of the staff had retired for the evening. The long hallways were dimly illuminated by warm golden lamps. Emma finished getting ready for bed. She walked out of the bathroom, then stopped. The bedroom was empty. She looked toward Sophia's side of the bed, untouched. Emma frowned. She glanced toward the balcony, empty, then toward the bathroom, also empty. Where did she go? Emma waited for a moment, then sighed. A familiar suspicion entered her mind. "Don't tell me." She crossed her arms. "She's working." Emma looked toward the empty doorway. "That woman works too much." She tried to ignore it. She really did. She climbed into bed, picked up the novel resting on her nightstand, opened it, read one sentence, then looked toward the door. She read another, looked again. Finally, Emma closed the book. Forget it. She climbed back out of bed, picked up the novel, and quietly left the room. The mansion was almost completely silent. Emma walked down the grand staircase. Only the soft ticking of the grandfather clock accompanied her footsteps. As she reached the lower floor, a faint glow came from the living room. Emma followed it, and there, exactly as she'd expected, sat Sophia, alone. Her laptop rested open on the coffee table. Several reports were scattered beside her. One hand rested against her forehead. Her eyes moved slowly across the screen. She looked exhausted. Emma stopped at the doorway. For a moment, she simply watched. This wasn't the Sophia everyone saw at Bennett Corporation. Not the perfectly composed CEO. Not the woman who could silence an entire conference room with one look. This Sophia was tired. Really tired. Emma's expression softened. "Still working?" Sophia looked up. The moment she saw Emma, something in her face changed. The tension around her eyes softened. "I couldn't sleep." Emma walked farther into the room. Her eyes moved toward the paperwork, then the laptop. "You've been working since dinner?" Sophia hesitated. "Almost." Emma stared at her. "Sophia, I'm fine." Emma gave her a look. Sophia corrected herself. "Mostly fine." Emma sighed. "You're going to make yourself sick." Sophia leaned back against the sofa. "I'll survive." Emma wasn't amused. "That's not the same thing as taking care of yourself." Sophia looked at her. The words were simple, but something about hearing them made her fall quiet. Emma walked over. She glanced at the laptop screen. then at Sophia, without asking permission. She reached down and closed it. Sophia blinked. Emma? No more work. Sophia immediately sat straighter. I still have reports to review. They'll still exist tomorrow. I have a meeting in the morning, and you'll be useless in that meeting if you haven't slept. Sophia stared at her. Emma folded her arms. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Sophia raised one eyebrow. You're very comfortable giving orders to your CEO. Emma almost smiled. No. She picked up her novel from the nearby table, then sat down on the sofa. She gently patted the empty space beside her. I'm not giving orders to my CEO. Sophia watched her. Emma's voice softened. I'm asking. She paused. My wife. Silence. Emma froze. Sophia froze. Neither of them had expected those words. Emma's eyes widened slightly. She immediately looked toward her book. I mean, if you want to. Sophia said nothing. Emma stared very seriously at the unopened page in front of her. Her cheeks slowly warmed. Why had she said that? Not Sophia. Not my boss. Not even you. My wife. Emma swallowed. She was about to correct herself again, when the sofa shifted. Sophia had sat down beside her. Emma slowly looked over. Sophia leaned back against the cushions. There was a small space between them. Not much. Just enough. Emma looked at her. You're actually listening to me? Sophia closed her eyes for a moment. Don't get used to it. Emma smiled. Too late. Sophia opened her eyes. Emma was already looking down at her novel. A tiny smile appeared on Sophia's face. Neither woman said anything else. The laptop remained closed. The reports remained untouched. And for the first time that entire day, Sophia Bennett wasn't someone's CEO. She wasn't responsible for hundreds of employees. She wasn't thinking about meetings, or numbers, or expectations. She was simply sitting beside Emma. And strangely, that was enough. The fireplace crackled softly in front of them. Emma opened her novel. Sophia leaned back. The mansion became silent around them, and neither realized that this quiet little moment was about to become one neither of them would ever forget. But apparently impossible to wake up. Emma considered trying again. Then she noticed Sophia's face. Peaceful, relaxed, no tension between her brows, no exhaustion in her eyes. Emma remembered what she'd said earlier. You're going to make yourself sick. Maybe. One uninterrupted night of sleep wouldn't hurt. Emma sighed. Fine. 5 more minutes. She reopened her novel. 5 minutes became 20. 20 became an hour. The fire slowly grew smaller. Outside, the night remained completely still. Emma turned another page, then another. Eventually, she couldn't remember what she had read. Her own eyes had begun growing heavy. She blinked, forced them open, then blinked again. I need to wake you. She looked down at Sophia. Before I fall asleep too. Emma gently touched Sophia's shoulder. Sophia. No response. Emma sighed. Then Sophia shifted. Her head began slipping from Emma's shoulder. Emma immediately caught her. Careful. She didn't want Sophia waking up with a painful neck. Very gently, Emma adjusted her position. She guided Sophia lower, slowly, carefully, until Sophia's head rested across Emma's lap. Emma froze. She looked down. Okay. She swallowed. Definitely not what I planned. But Sophia looked comfortable. Her breathing remained slow and peaceful. Emma carefully adjusted the blanket over her, then rested one hand beside Sophia's head. I'll stay awake. Emma looked toward the clock. Just until you wake up. That was the last promise she remembered making, because sometime later, her novel slipped from her fingers. It landed softly on the carpet. Emma's head rested against the back of the sofa. Her eyes closed. And soon, the living room became completely silent. Sophia slept peacefully with her head in Emma's lap. Emma slept sitting upright, careful, even in sleep, not to disturb her. Morning sunlight slowly entered Bennett Mansion. Golden rays stretched across the living room. The fireplace had long gone cold. The fallen novel remained on the carpet. The blanket still covered Sophia. Emma's eyes slowly opened. She blinked. Once, twice. For several seconds, she couldn't understand why she was sitting on the sofa. Then, she tried to move. Her entire body protested. Ow! Emma immediately stopped. Her shoulder was stiff. Her back ached. Her neck felt as though it had forgotten how to turn. Why am I... Then she looked down and remembered everything. Sophia was still sleeping peacefully, with her head in Emma's lap. Emma stared, then quietly laughed. Right. She looked at the clock. Her eyes widened. All night? She had actually stayed there all night. Emma carefully rolled one shoulder, immediately regretted it. Ugh. Ow. She covered her mouth to stop herself from laughing too loudly. So this is what happens when you let a sleeping CEO stay comfortable. She looked down again. A loose strand of Sophia's dark hair had fallen across her forehead. Emma watched it for a moment. Then, without thinking, she gently brushed it aside. Her fingertips barely touched Sophia's hair. Emma froze. She looked at her own hand, then at Sophia. A tiny smile appeared. You're actually kind of adorable when you're asleep. This time, Emma didn't take the words back. She simply smiled. For several more minutes, she stayed exactly where she was. Her back hurt. Her shoulder hurt. Her legs had started going numb. But she didn't wake Sophia, because this might have been the most peaceful Emma had ever seen her. Eventually, Sophia stirred. Emma immediately looked down. Sophia's eyelashes fluttered. Her eyes slowly opened. For a few seconds, she simply stared upward, still half asleep. Then, her eyes focused. Emma smiled awkwardly. Morning, Sophia blinked. Good morning. Silence. Sophia's expression slowly changed. She looked around, then upward at Emma. Then, she realized exactly where her head was resting. Her eyes widened. Sophia immediately sat up. Emma. Emma tried not to laugh. Sophia looked genuinely embarrassed. I'm sorry. It's okay. I didn't mean to. I know. Sophia looked at the sofa, then at the blanket, then toward the morning sunlight. Did we sleep here? Emma nodded. Apparently. Sophia looked back at her. All night? Emma gave her a tired smile. All night, Sophia stared. Then Emma attempted to stretch. A sharp ache immediately ran through her shoulder. Her expression changed. Ow. Sophia noticed instantly. What's wrong? Emma waved her hand. Nothing. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Emma. Emma sighed. Okay. My shoulder. She carefully moved it. And maybe my back. Sophia frowned. Why? Emma stared at her. Sophia stared back. Then, her eyes slowly dropped toward Emma's lap. Realization appeared. You stayed like that all night? Emma smiled sheepishly. I tried moving. Sophia looked horrified. You should have woken me. I tried. Sophia paused. You did? Twice. Emma laughed. You weren't interested. Sophia looked genuinely embarrassed. Emma continued. Then your head started slipping. I didn't want you waking up with a bad neck. So, she gestured toward her lap. I moved you. Sophia stared at her. And then you stayed sitting here? Emma shrugged carefully. You looked comfortable. Sophia's expression changed. The embarrassment slowly disappeared. Something softer replaced it. You should have woken me. Emma looked at her. I know. A small silence followed. Then Emma smiled. But you finally looked like someone who wasn't carrying the whole world. Sophia froze. Emma's smile remained gentle. So I left you alone. For several seconds, Sophia couldn't answer. She simply looked at Emma. At the woman who had spent an entire night sitting uncomfortably, just because Sophia finally looked peaceful. Something tightened quietly in her chest. Sophia looked away, then noticed Emma rubbing her shoulder again. Without thinking, she moved closer. Her hand gently settled against Emma's shoulder. Emma blinked. Sophia carefully began massaging the stiff muscle. What are you doing? Sophia didn't look at her. Fixing the problem I caused. Emma smiled. You don't have to. I know. Sophia continued anyway. Emma watched her. Then her smile became playful. Does the CEO personally handle employee compensation now? Sophia's hand stopped for just a second, then continued. She finally looked at Emma. The smallest smile appeared. Only one employee. Emma froze. Her teasing smile disappeared. For one brief second, her heart seemed to forget what it was supposed to do. Sophia seemed to realize what she'd said too. But this time, she didn't correct herself. She simply continued gently massaging Emma's shoulder. Emma slowly looked away, trying unsuccessfully to hide her smile. Outside, the mansion gardens glowed beneath the morning sunlight. Inside, the two women remained together on the sofa. A discarded novel lay on the floor. Sophia's laptop remained closed, and neither of them realized that somewhere during the night, something else had changed. They had begun this marriage as strangers. Then, they became partners. Slowly, they became friends. And now, without either of them admitting it, they were beginning to become each other's safe place. Sophia's hand remained gently against Emma's shoulder. Her fingers carefully worked over the stiffness left from the night before. Emma sat unusually still, not because her shoulder hurt, but because one sentence kept replaying inside her head. Only one employee? She glanced toward Sophia. Sophia seemed completely focused on what she was doing, as though she hadn't just said something capable of making Emma's heart skip. Eventually, Sophia pulled her hand away. Better? Emma carefully moved her shoulder. A little. Sophia frowned. Only a little? Emma laughed. I spent an entire night sitting upright. I don't think you're going to fix me in 2 minutes. A trace of guilt appeared on Sophia's face. Emma noticed immediately. Hey. Sophia looked at her. I'm joking. It's not your fault. I could have woken you. Sophia raised an eyebrow. You said you tried. Emma paused. Okay. Technically, I could have tried harder. Sophia shook her head. Emma smiled, then placed both hands against the sofa. She carefully pushed herself up. The moment she straightened, her lower back protested. Ow. Sophia stood immediately. Emma. I'm fine. Emma took one step, then stopped. Mostly, before she could take another, Sophia stepped beside her. One hand gently settled against Emma's lower back, steadying her. Emma looked down, then at Sophia. But Sophia didn't seem to notice. She was too busy watching Emma carefully. Slowly, Emma's smile returned. Together, they began walking toward the grand staircase. Sophia's hand remained against Emma's back. One step, then another. Emma kept looking ahead, trying not to smile. Eventually, she couldn't resist. She stopped. Sophia stopped immediately. Concern appeared on her face. "Is your back worse?" Emma shook her head. "No." "Then what?" Emma looked at her. "Sophia?" "Yes?" Emma's eyes slowly moved downward. Sophia followed her gaze. Her hand was still resting gently against Emma's back. Emma looked up again. A playful little smile appeared. "You're doing it again," Sophia frowned. "Doing what?" "You keep taking care of me." Emma paused, and without even noticing, Sophia looked down again. Only then did she seem to realize. She quickly pulled her hand away. Emma waited. For once, Sophia Bennett had absolutely nothing. No explanation, no professional excuse, no carefully prepared answer. Emma laughed softly. "You really don't notice, do you?" Sophia looked away. "Apparently not." Emma watched her, then her expression softened. "I don't mind." Sophia slowly looked back at her. The teasing had disappeared from Emma's face. She meant it. For a brief moment, neither moved. Then Emma began walking again. Sophia quietly followed. This time, her hand stayed at her side. But somehow, the absence of that small touch was something they both noticed. They returned to their bedroom. The same bedroom they had once divided with a ridiculous wall of pillows. The memory suddenly crossed Emma's mind. She almost laughed. Only a short time ago, they had carefully created a border between their sides of the bed. And now, Sophia had spent an entire night asleep in her lap. Life had a strange sense of humor. Emma walked toward the vanity. Sophia opened the wardrobe. Neither mentioned what had happened downstairs. They simply began preparing for work. Emma stood in front of the mirror, slowly brushing her long hair. Behind her, Sophia slipped into a crisp white blouse, then her charcoal blazer. She fastened one cuff, then reached for the other. It refused to cooperate. Sophia tried again. Nothing. Emma noticed through the mirror. She continued brushing her hair. Sophia tried once more. Emma's lips twitched. Another attempt. Finally, Emma put the brush down. She turned around. "Do you need help?" Sophia immediately answered, "No." Emma folded her arms. Sophia tried the cufflink again. It slipped. Emma raised one eyebrow. Sophia stared at it. Emma waited. A few seconds passed. Sophia finally sighed. "Perhaps." Emma laughed. "I thought so." She walked toward her. "Hold still." Sophia looked down at her. "You're enjoying this. Maybe a little." Emma gently took Sophia's wrist. Sophia immediately became still. Emma carefully guided the small cufflink through the fabric. Her fingers brushed lightly against Sophia's wrist. Neither commented. "There." Emma straightened the sleeve. "Done." Sophia looked down, then back at Emma. "Thank you." Emma smiled. "You're welcome." She started to step away, then noticed Sophia's collar wasn't sitting properly. Emma stopped. "Wait." Sophia froze. Emma reached up, very gently. She straightened the edge of Sophia's collar. Sophia's eyes remained on Emma. Emma was too focused to notice. She smoothed the fabric, adjusted it once more, then smiled proudly. "Now you're ready to terrify your employees." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "I don't terrify my employees." Emma stared at her. Sophia stared back. Emma burst into laughter. "Sure." Sophia sighed. Emma returned to the vanity, but for several seconds, Sophia remained exactly where she was. Her fingers lightly touched the collar Emma had just fixed. A tiny smile appeared. A few minutes later, it was Emma's turn to struggle. She had changed into a cream blouse and tailored beige trousers. Everything was ready, except the small zipper at the back of the blouse. Emma reached behind herself. Almost. She stretched farther. Nothing. She tried from the other side. Still nothing. Come on. Behind her, Sophia watched quietly. Emma tried again. Seriously, Sophia finally walked over. Emma. Emma looked at her through the mirror. What? Sophia held out her hand. Turn around. Emma blinked, then realized. Oh. She turned slightly. Sophia carefully gathered Emma's long chestnut hair, moving it over one shoulder. The moment Sophia's fingers brushed the back of Emma's neck, Emma became very still. Sophia noticed. Her movements immediately became gentler. She reached for the zipper. Slowly, she pulled it upward. The room suddenly seemed much quieter than before. Emma watched Sophia through the mirror. Sophia's attention remained on the zipper. But when she finished, her eyes lifted. Their gazes met through the reflection. Neither looked away immediately. Sophia's hand remained near Emma's shoulder. There. Emma smiled softly. Looks like we're even. Sophia nodded. Seems so. Emma turned around. Thank you. Sophia answered without thinking. Anytime. Emma's smile grew. Sophia noticed. What? Nothing. Emma. Emma shook her head. I didn't say anything. You were about to. No. Sophia narrowed her eyes. Emma laughed and picked up her handbag. Come on, Miss Bennet. We're going to be late. Sophia stared after her, then quietly followed. Downstairs, breakfast was already waiting. Grandfather Bennet sat at the head of the table, newspaper open, coffee beside him. He heard footsteps approaching, without looking up. He smiled. Emma and Sophia entered together. Emma walked toward her chair. Sophia naturally moved in the same direction. Her hand almost reached for the chair. But Emma pulled it out herself. Sophia stopped. For the smallest second. She actually looked disappointed. Emma noticed. Grandfather noticed too. Of course he did. Grandfather slowly lowered his newspaper. Well, Emma looked toward him. What? He glanced at Emma's chair, then at Sophia. You opened your own chair today. Emma looked confused. Yes? Grandfather nodded approvingly. I'm impressed. Sophia frowned. See? Grandfather calmly folded his newspaper. I was beginning to think. You'd start carrying her around the house. Emma froze. Grandfather! Grandfather burst into laughter. Sophia calmly picked up her coffee. That would be inefficient. Silence. Emma slowly turned toward her. Grandfather stopped laughing long enough to stare. Emma blinked. That's the part you disagree with? Sophia looked at her. What? You didn't say you wouldn't carry me. You said it would be inefficient. Grandfather started laughing again. Sophia finally realized what she'd said. I didn't mean... Emma leaned back in her chair. No. Please, continue. Sophia sighed. Emma smiled. Grandfather wiped the corner of his eye. I've waited years to see someone leave Sophia without an answer. Sophia looked at him. Grandfather. What? I'm enjoying breakfast. Emma laughed, and then something unexpected happened. Sophia laughed too. Not the tiny smile she usually tried to hide. Not the quiet chuckle Emma had occasionally managed to pull from her. A real laugh. Warm. Genuine. Emma stopped for a moment. She simply watched her. Sophia looked completely different when she laughed. And Emma realized she wanted to hear that sound more often. Much more often. Breakfast eventually came to an end. Outside, The familiar black sedan waited. The chauffeur stood beside the car. Emma and Sophia walked down the mansion steps together. Emma noticed Sophia glance toward the rear passenger door. She knew exactly what was coming. A mischievous smile appeared. Sophia started toward the door. Emma immediately sped up. Sophia noticed, but it was too late. Emma reached the sedan first. She grabbed the handle and proudly opened the door herself. Sophia stopped. Emma looked back at her. See? Sophia stared. Emma smiled triumphantly. I can open my own door. The chauffeur suddenly became extremely interested in something across the driveway. Sophia looked at Emma for several seconds. Then, the smallest smile appeared. I know. Emma waited. Sophia stepped slightly closer. I simply prefer doing it. Emma's smile disappeared. Not because she was upset. Because, for once, she didn't have a teasing response. She simply stared at Sophia. Sophia looked perfectly calm, as though she'd said nothing unusual. Emma slowly climbed into the car, trying desperately to hide the smile returning to her face. Sophia walked around the sedan. The chauffeur quietly opened the opposite door for her. Sophia climbed inside. The doors closed. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Emma looked through the window, but her reflection betrayed her. She was smiling. Sophia noticed. What? Emma shook her head. Nothing. Sophia looked suspicious. You're smiling. I know. Why? Emma finally turned toward her. I simply prefer doing it. Sophia stared at her. Emma used Sophia's own words. With exactly the same serious expression, Sophia realized. Emma immediately burst into laughter. Sophia shook her head. You're impossible. Emma leaned comfortably against the seat. So I've been told. The car slowly began moving. Neither noticed. Grandfather Bennett standing near the front window, watching the black sedan disappear beyond the gates. He smiled. Not because the contract was working, not because appearances had been maintained, but because, for the first time, he was watching two people who had entered a marriage out of obligation choose each other in 100 tiny ways. A door opened, a collar fixed, a shoulder supported, a night spent awake so the other could sleep. Nothing dramatic, nothing either of them could call love. Not yet. Inside the sedan, Emma looked toward Sophia. Sophia happened to look toward her at exactly the same moment. Their eyes met. Neither immediately looked away. Emma smiled. Sophia's expression softened. Then Emma turned toward the window. Her thoughts quietly returned to something she had been trying not to admit. She had never expected this. When Sophia first placed that marriage contract in front of her, Emma had thought the next year would simply be something to survive. A strange agreement, a temporary marriage, a life beside a woman she barely knew. But somewhere along the way, Sophia had changed. Or perhaps Emma had simply started seeing the parts of her nobody else did. The woman who opened every door for her. The woman who remembered she was afraid of thunderstorms. The woman who became jealous and had absolutely no idea how to hide it. The woman who worked until she could barely keep her eyes open. Yet somehow always noticed when Emma needed something. Emma looked down at her hands. A shy smile appeared. I never thought I would ever like Sophia. She paused. The thought didn't scare her as much as she expected. Her eyes slowly moved toward the woman sitting beside her. Sophia was looking through her tablet again, completely unaware. Emma's expression softened. But I think she hesitated, then finally allowed herself to finish the thought. I think I do. Not love, not yet. Emma wasn't ready to call it that, but she liked Sophia. She liked teasing her. She liked seeing the side of her nobody at Bennett Corporation ever saw. She liked how protective Sophia became without noticing, and perhaps most dangerously. Emma liked being the person who could make Sophia Bennett smile. Emma quietly looked back through the window. She didn't say a word. Beside her, Sophia continued reading. Neither woman knew that something important had just happened. Sophia had already admitted her jealousy. And now, for the first time, Emma had admitted her own feelings, even if only to herself. The black sedan disappeared into the morning traffic, and somewhere behind them, inside Bennett Mansion, Grandfather Bennett quietly returned to his breakfast. A satisfied smile remained on his face. It's only a matter of time now,